Hi, and welcome to the Thriving Entrepreneurs 15 Minutes pre-recorded version. She is Rochelle Learling, entrepreneur coach.
He's David Foster, also entrepreneur coach, or is he going to be a founder coach next year? Nobody knows.
Yeah, let's leave everybody in suspense about that. We are pre-recording this so it releases during times that we're going to be off during the holidays. And our question today is, how can your 2023 goals survive an entrepreneur's life? The new year is a time to set goals, although my opinion is that should be probably every week. But a lot of people think of those things, and there's financial years and new beginnings. But an entrepreneur's life isn't really exactly the same. So, Rochelle, start us off with how those goals can survive.
Let's clarify a couple of things. Are we talking about personal goals or business goals, or are we talking about both?
I would say both, because for an entrepreneur, that line between business and personal isn't as well drawn for somebody who's got a company job. Okay.
Well, as you say, how do they stay alive? How they actually stay and become a thing that you work on? I think it starts by saying that goals should not be desires. So, I mean, I wish I would, or I would like to, is never a goal. So I think that, first of all, if you really are committed to changing something about your business, your life, the way you work, the role you have, then it should really become like a commitment. I think that is a bottom line already, that so many people just don't really set goals, just kind of like put things on paper that look like desires. So that would be number one to me. How about you?
You know, for me, I think the first one is, let's not let social media, listicles on the internet, and other people who are not entrepreneurs influence what the goals you should have going into 2023, right? Because, look, our lives as entrepreneurs or founders are completely different. And we have different risks, and we have different things that we're trying to do, and we have different limitations. And so your goals, they may not show up in a magazine or a blog post or something like that meant for the general civilian population. So I think that's something to really look at, and look at the things that are affecting you and what can you do about them when you set those goals. Because an unattainable goal is, that can be really a negative thing. So I think that would be my first thing that I would point to.
Yeah, if we start looking inside instead of outside for whatever other people think or expect of you, then we have different goals indeed. But I think if I look at how we coach people and what we try to come across or get across is really that business and life on your terms. So that comes with understanding what you want and what you want to change for next year. So yeah, even if it's just like a day that changes and that becomes a new year, yay, we can still use it as this point in time where we want to reflect and we want to look forward and say, what else do we want to do different this year? And I think goals can be these really big, like I want to lose this kind of weight or I want to do that. Too big of a thing that just doesn't feel, like literally doesn't feel in the body. Like there's nothing that really feels attached to us. So when we look at goals and we look at our past year as a business owner, what about that year do we want to take with us? What was successful? What do we want to keep in next year? Or what do we want to improve? And secondly, what about it do we want to keep there and do differently next year? And I think those goals are way more specific, way more attainable, as you say, but also way more realistic because you have a feeling with them. You have gone through it. You know what it means in order to change something in that particular area. So if we look at, I would say relatively, then the perspective of what didn't go well or the perspective of what we want to keep doing, that makes it easier to set goals that we actually want to achieve and keep achieving throughout the year.
Yeah, and that keep doing, I think, is next on my list because, right, your biggest investor might set a financial goal for, revenue or OPEX or whatever, and that's fair. They've got their numbers to hit, and that's how those things are expressed for their investment. But we can't just set a goal of saying we're going to get 10 million in income next year, right?
No.
Or revenue.
No.
But what we can do is look at what we can control and break that down into smaller tasks or subtasks or even sub goals and say, all right, well, I need to send this much outbound communication every day, every week, this type of thing. And it's really this idea of falling in love with the process as opposed to thrashing for 11 months and then somehow getting a $10 million contract at the end of the year and I've made my goal. But you're really not more accomplished at the end of that year like that. No. And if you look at really, really good performers, you know, whether they're in field sports or, you know, Michael Schumacher in F1, like, I mean, that guy just loved to drive. Yes, he was very good. Yes, he had great support. Yes, he practiced a lot, but he also loved it. Yep. And he probably would have loved it almost as much if we didn't even know who he was. And I think that's really, really important. When you set your goals, make sure that you set them for what you do and not what you will have done or achieved.
Yeah. So again, the journey, not the end result.
Yes.
But that also goes for understanding why you want something, right? Why do you think it's cool? Why do you think it's thrilling? Why do you think it's actually going to give you something when you achieve that? And what does it do in terms of what we just talked about last week, which is the mission statement? What is the why behind this all? And I think too many of us have goals that are, as you say, unattainable, first of all, but also are just not that personal to us. So they just become something on paper like, all right, we'd be happy to get that. But what does it do to us? What does it do to our company? Is there certain growth that you would like to get? And why would you want to get that growth? Would it change how you run your business? And would that be exciting to you? Would that give you opportunities that you didn't have this year? Would it give you, for instance, the room to travel more during the year? Or would it give you the room to take off 2 more days a week? I'm just saying, like, what does it give you, like, practically speaking? And if we attach emotion to it, if we attach our personal desires to it, then it becomes way more interesting. And I think what you just said about Michael Schumacher is like the purpose and the passion that he has for what he did. And that is what the goal should be about. It should be something that we're like, yeah, I feel that I can definitely see how that changes me in a good way and my business in a good way.
Yes, yes. And you're kind of touching the edge of another thing that I think is really important when it comes to goals. The why is a really, really good question to ask, as long as you're older than, say, 5, because those why questions from 5-year-olds are really annoying. Yes. But, you know, try to be really transparent with yourself, because oftentimes we want to lose 10 pounds or we want to get $1 million a month, or because we think then, therefore, life is going to be better. The music will start to come up. Colors will be brighter. You know, I'll finally, you know, get the girl or whatever the thing is. And those types of goals and that type of thinking is incredibly dangerous and corrosive, because when you achieve something, right afterwards is one of the most depressing times for people.
Right. Yeah.
Right? People who have won a big sporting event, people who have, you know, made the big deal, bought the car, got the house, whatever it is. After that subsides a little bit, and those honeymoon periods can be incredibly short, well, guess what? Your mom still annoys you, or you still have to talk to that guy in accounting that just is really difficult. And when you fall in love with the process and you don't assign a goal some sort of magic powers to, like, make all of life better, you're in a much better spot. You're in a less fragile spot, I think.
Oh, yeah. Less fragile. Well said. Yeah. And I was just writing down while you were speaking that if you were to get to the goal, and whatever goal it is, you feel great about it in that moment, and then you know what's going to come. It's going to be that dip of, as you said, like depression, kind of like, what do I do now? There's no purpose anymore. But then it's also a part of reaching the goal that you feel that achievement. Like, you actually feel it, you celebrate it, you actually, like, take it in, like, ingrain it, like, wow, like, that's such a big deal because I worked for this for like 6-7 months and now we are here. And if you don't take a moment to actually, like, reflect on that, then it's also not going to be worth it. So I think that once you set a goal that's really big and you achieve it, feel it, like celebrate it, do something with it, and then set something new. Otherwise, you're going to indeed get into that depression gap. And secondly, I think I would like to add to your point that it's mostly about the tiny goals. It's the weekly goals that we can improve. Like, what did we see last week that's not working? What do we want to keep there? What do we want to take with us next week? And what can we add? Okay, and next week we improve again. And I think that's so much more challenging and much more exciting than just that big thing that seems so like kind of like out there and like, oh yeah, I wish I could get there soon, but I'm not even sure how to get there. I think that's important. And to that point, if you have a big goal, which is also fine, break it down to 5 little points. Like, what are the 5 steps that you need to take in order to get there?
Yeah. I mean, really what you're talking about is David Allen's weekly review, right? You look at what's gone well, what hasn't gone well, and it's in the context of your goals. And, you know, those should be specific to your business and yourself. And, well, as long as I brought up entrepreneurs or founders, yes, we have to figure that part out. We can't run a business that we started well by sacrificing ourselves.
Amen.
And whether that's sleep, diet, social connection, any kind of other interest. And so if, dear listener, if you are the type to just do one more thing and find yourself at work long after you think is healthy or everyone else is gone, and you're starting to suffer the physical, emotional, and psychological effects of driving yourself to ground, let's put all of your personal goals up at the top. Set an alarm to go to sleep. Set an alarm to get up from your desk and walk around. And again, fall in love with the process. Like, I had one friend who, during the pandemic and everybody was stuck at their desks, remote working, her goal was, I'm going to walk every single street in my town. And she did that during the workday. And that was something that was meaningful to her. She liked it. She met people. And she realized, you know, as the pandemic waned where we are, she was much healthier. So if you feel like that's an issue for you, put those personal goals at the top of the list, because if you don't do it, who else will?
That's it. That's it. Yeah. And also another angle of this topic that I didn't address yet is the identity part that comes with reaching the goal. So if you want to reach a certain goal, not just the why, but what does it make you? Who will you be? And also then turning that around, who do you need to be in order to reach that goal? I think that's super interesting. Once we see that, okay, in order to get to that growth of the business, I need to change my habits around that. I should change my communication skills. I should change my leadership skills. All right, then those become the daily actions and the daily goals that we can work with in order to reach a bigger goal. And that identity that we can take on even earlier than we reach the goal, that's where we make that big difference, because you get to see that in order to get there, we need to be a different people or a different person. And forgot the name, but last name was Smith of the book, What Got Me Here Won't Get Me There, or What Got You Here Won't Get Me There. Love that book. Yeah, I think that makes so much sense.
Yeah, that's great. And thank you for plugging leadership so I didn't have to, because I think that's a really important part. So we are at the end of our time. LinkedIn will only allow us to post a 15-minute video, and we wanted to make sure that it came out when we were usually broadcasting. So happy holidays to all.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We will be watching the comments, and you can contact us privately if you've got more questions that you don't want to put in the comments.
Absolutely. And I just want to add that I made a reflection guide with all these reflection questions in order to get your goals right. So if you want to get those for free, just send me a DM.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'll send you a message.
Yeah, sure. Do that. All right. Happy holidays.
And Happy New Year to everyone.
Yes, same.